I'm Jeannie Long, Executive Director of Chicago Collections Consortium. And if you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. And for those of you who are returning listeners, it's great to have you back with us. Chicago Collections Consortium in this program today spotlights our members' archival holdings, allowing listeners for a quick glimpse at their fascinating collections. Before we begin our conversation with the Ukrainian National Museum of Chicago, I'd like to begin with Chicago Collections Land Acknowledgement Statement. Chicago Collections acknowledges and is grateful for the Native peoples who laid the foundation for the city of Chicago and for the diverse Indigenous nations that reside in Chicago today. When you visit our member organizations and when you experience Chicago's outdoor spaces, we invite you to join in offering respect and gratitude to the many Indigenous people that reside in the Chicagoland region, as well as their ancestors. I'd like to take a moment to thank CCC's donors for their generous support that allows us to offer unique free programming like this one being offered today. Additionally, their funding supports CCC's Cornerstone Initiative, Explore Chicago Collections portal. I invite you to go online to check out CCC's upcoming programs in celebration of our 10-year anniversary. Also be sure to go to the bottom of our homepage to sign up for our newsletter. So let's begin our discussion today. A sincere welcome to our speakers, Halyna Sarancha, Archivist, Maria Klimchak, Museum Curator, and Lydia Tkaczuk, President of the Ukrainian National Museum of Chicago. Ladies, thank you so much for making time for this conversation today, allowing us to dive into not only hear more about your collection, but also how through your exhibitions, you're sharing the information of what is happening in Ukraine today. But let's begin with a little history on the museum and the incredible Ukrainian community here in Chicago.
Hello, thank you very much. And well, this image is an image of our second floor of the museum. It's our ethnographic collection. As you see, it's very colorful. Our museum was founded in 1952 by third wave immigrants. We've had 4, or now you could say 5 waves of immigration. And 3 gentlemen that met in Chicago, 3 scholars decided to establish an institution that would reflect the lives of those who had to leave their country due to cruel circumstances. Now, 70 years later, the Ukrainian community is facing the same problems where it's very important that we preserve our heritage because Russia, the aggressor, is fighting a war in Ukraine, and people are dying, and also many museums and artifacts are being ruined. Next slide. So this is a scene pictures of our museum. This is our present location. We're located on the corner of Oakley and Superior in Ukrainian Village. So Ukrainian Village was established in 1983 by Jane Byrne. It wasn't established, I should say. The area was designated as a Ukrainian village, and it's found in Westtown, Chicago. We've had previous locations, and this is our present location. It's a bit tight, so perhaps one day we'll have a much larger museum, but this is what we have for now.
And you certainly made best use of the space that you have there too, so.
Yes, yes. We would like to allow for our artifacts to have a little more breathing space, but they don't. And unfortunately, we want to show as much as we possibly can in the area that's available to us. But we're very proud of it. And so we go on with what we have.
And Lydia, how large a Ukrainian community resides in Chicago?
So I would say that we have about 100,000 inhabitants. Perhaps now, of course, with many refugees coming here, we don't know the exact number. And then in Illinois, we probably have more. We probably have close to 200,000 Ukrainians. And we have many groups. So Ukrainian Village is one sort of community. And then we have one community by St. Joseph's Parish by O'Hare. We have one in Palatine. So we have several community groups. This one has the most churches that are close by, institutions, businesses, etc.
Well, we were thrilled to have the opportunity to work with you on the Stories of Immigration project, uploading information from your collection, and again, bringing it to our audience on our Explore Chicago Collections portal on the story of immigration to Chicago and what that has meant for your community and the contributions the Ukrainian community have made to our city. So I invite listeners to check out that on our website as well.
So here we have photos of all the churches. In Ukrainian Village is really not that large, but it borders Grand and Division, Damon, and Western, I think. But in this small proximity, we have 4 churches. We have 2 Ukrainian Catholic churches. We have a cathedral, a church, and then we have 2 Orthodox churches. One is a cathedral and one is a church. And so here are glimpses of those churches. Some are built according to the Kazakh Baroque style, and the one with the gold domes is the Byzantine style. Next. So here are founders, Oleksandr Hankevich, Julian Kamenetsky, and Oris Torodetsky. They were scholars, however, they had blue-collar jobs when they came here. They had to learn English, and they had a break for lunch, and this is when they sat around, they would discuss what they can possibly do to preserve their heritage. Because when they came to Chicago, excuse me, they brought with them many documents, photos, important things that they thought that were necessary to preserve. And so they initially started with the archives, and then eventually the museum grew, the archival center grew into a museum. So this is just nice scenery behind, and they're having a good time having lunch.
And it's amazing in a short amount of time how the museum has grown too.
Yes. And this is our first museum. So it started in a basement, in a garage, and this is the first building. The building to the left, it was a 3-story house. And you can read the information where it says what was the purpose of the museum. Now from that building, we moved to the present location, which was a Slovak rectory. And so of course, when we moved to this location, we added on a portion of a new building and to make it look more like a museum, because when it was in that 3-story building, it didn't quite look like a museum. I remember I was there. It was not as inviting, let's say that. Next slide. Our exhibitions. So we try to have diverse exhibitions. Some are on folk art, and they're geared more towards adults. And then we also have exhibitions for children where we had folktale dioramas, and we will be repeating that type of exhibition in August and September. I had to think back. These dioramas have Ukrainian folk tales, and then next to them they have American folk tales, so that kids can see a comparison. We have social events, Mardi Gras. We have fundraiser. Once a year we have fundraisers, and these fundraisers also have a theme. Once it was Chicago, My Kind of Town. Once it was Ukrainian Hollywood actors. So we try to make everything diverse, and we try to appeal to different age groups as well, both with our exhibitions and our fundraisers. And next is Halyna.
Hello.
Hi, Halyna.
Hello, I am happy to introduce our archive. I'm archivist here almost 3 years. I am from Ukraine, and I know it's not only job or work like regular, it's a mission, because it was 2 goals to start this collection in Chicago. And founders, you saw these amazing pictures, they said it was a 3rd wave after World War II, 1950s, but no museum, no archive about Ukrainian community. And was the main thing when they started this archive. And it's almost 70 years when they start to collect the documents, all pictures or images, letters. And another one is, of course, Lydia said, it was reason they know what happened was in Ukraine under the Soviet rules, many documents was destroyed. And was another thing, when they started this collection, they preserved many documents from Ukraine. And it's amazing. Now it's available to use for the Ukrainian and not only Ukrainians, historians, for the research, and it's great what it means, its mission. Next slide, please. I would like to show how all these Ukrainian community, because this is amazing picture how people from Ukraine treat America like country of dream, country of the opportunity. Ukraine was always a beautiful country, like young lady, and they would like to take this opportunity and make life rich and success. And another picture in one of the oldest, the birth certificate, the year it's 1885. It's a Mr. Victor Megal. He was born in Vinnike. It's a village close to Lviv, very famous Ukrainian city, very old.
And Halyna, would you say it's the oldest item in your archives? Would this be it, or how far back does your archives date?
Yeah, the first immigration was started in the 1870s. Mostly was Pennsylvania and New Jersey, New York, but exactly Chicago was one of the city which our people like, and they located here. Yeah, it's one of the oldest, like 1870s, 1880s. You can see the birth certificate. Next slide. And when people realize they're Ukrainians and they have big amount of the Ukrainian community here, they started many interesting events, and you can see how crowded it was. Like in the 1930s, it was Ukrainian pavilion in 1933 in World's Fair exhibit on Navy Pier, and in August was Ukrainian Day, and on Navy Pier, almost 1,000 Ukrainian dancers, they joined this Ukrainian Day in Ukrainian embroidery costumes, and they showed what it means to be Ukrainian. And actually, first information in America about Ukrainian immigrants was how these people singing. The first information in Ukrainian in American newspapers was exactly, we don't know who this nationality, but people, they singing amazing songs and dancing too. And 1940s is this image regarding to the Ukrainian refugees. And 50s, you can see how beautiful was Ukrainian kids and young people on the streets of Chicago, because this is Chicago. And downtown also, it's 1970s. And very crowded event in 1960s, it's Round Lake. It was Ukrainian, Navy's Ukrainian Scout Plus camp, couple of miles from Chicago. Next slide.
Great images.
And we have in our archive many family stories. And one of the interesting, it's a family Podny. Ukrainian full name was Podvaitsetny, very difficult to pronounce. And they cut and it's amazing love story about a poor guy and very rich young girl. They immigrated to America in 1930s and became a successful family here. And the main thing, they bought land and they donated for the Ukrainian community for St. Nicholas Ukrainian Cemetery. And behind us, you can see it's one of event on Chicago Avenue, and it's advertising Olenek Brothers. It was legacy because it was a funeral business, because it was part of the family Podny. And people still using the territory or land, St. Nicholas Cemetery, but we remember it was one family story, and we keep it in our archive. Next slide. And maybe this picture is not a great condition, but we took the loop and we see it is not chairs, it's a cars. It was a great festival, and Ukrainian band was like Benetsky band, Ukrainian band. They won on this Chicagoland Musical Festival in 1930. Now we know it's Lollapalooza, Chicago.
Yeah.
And you can see how beautiful was Ukrainian choirs, ladies. And it's another story, it's need more time, because in the 1922, one of the Ukrainian musician, he brought for America Carol of the Bell. It was originally from Ukraine, Щедрик. Christmas song, yeah. Next slide, please. And the face of the Ukrainian village, it's still, it's many businesses, restaurants, and of course, Ukrainian credit unions and banks. Mostly was started in the 1930s, but it was depression and it was closed. But when many Ukrainians immigrated after World War II, they started very successful Ukrainian credit unions and banks. You can see in the 1951, it's Samopomich. Now it's one of the most successful credit union in Illinois, self-reliance. And also we have many information and advertising in the old newspapers and documents about Ukrainian restaurants and hotels. But one of the interesting images is exactly regarding to the restaurant on Chicago Avenue, 1954. And Mykola Denisuk Publishing Company, it's one of the great examples of the success Ukrainian businessman, Mykola Denisuk, because he had published company in Ukraine, in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, in Munich, and in Chicago too. And he published many Ukrainian books, which we have in our collection, in our library now. Next slide. And one of the main thing how people recognize its Ukrainian village, we saw from our visitors, we heard from our visitors, if we see on the street many beautiful women in the nice dresses, it's exactly Ukrainian village. And we agree with that, because you can see how beauty is as Ukrainian ladies. So,
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, Halyna, thank you. Thank you.
Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, I am glad to be today with all of you guys, and I would like to introduce you a little bit about our museum and our exhibit, what we are doing now. I'm working in a museum as a curator since 2001, and I am immigrated from Ukraine 30 years ago, and this is my gate to my career, because being in Chicago, I became a museums worker, and I graduated art care collection at the University of Chicago, just to doing what I'm doing now, and using my knowledge from Ukraine, being as a journalist, and this is why I try to not only show to the audience, to our visitors, the beauty of art, making all possible just to have a different local artists, and also inviting the artists from abroad, from different countries where Ukrainians live, but also to share the history of Ukraine. And recently we have to do this. This is our mission. Since the exhibit was started in 1952, our founders, our presidents, always thinking about the future, brilliant future for Ukraine in Ukraine. Actually, it's normal for each wave of immigrants and for each ethnic group or community in United States, because moving to other country, you are building the new life, thinking about your native country. And you know that since the war started in 2014, or even before, we always try to show to the audience, to the listeners, to the visitors our country. And this one that we still have now, it's Ukrainian, dedicated to Ukrainian children, children of Ukrainian, of Russian war, actually. Because Russia started the invasion 8 years ago, but in February 24, this invasion now is on display in our museum. And our visitor can see the collections of work by Ukrainian and Polish photojournalists. And you know, if we are going back to our history, we cannot expect that in 21st century, we're going to have a terrible war. If we are not forget, we will never forget what the Russia did for Ukraine and for Ukrainian children. One psychologist volunteering with Ukrainian children in Poland wrote on a hospital wall, balloons are prohibited. And the potential pop of the once innocent play items now reinvoke images and horrors of explosions. Let us think about just, you know, play. And this is why on the middle of on the center of our exhibit, I used the Polish and Ukrainian costumes, national costume, to show the real sister who was the first who gave the hand to Ukraine, and now they accept more than 3 million refugees. And also we have to tell to all Americans, do not forget about 300 children which were lost their life through the war. And they will never have again in their life this balloons. It's prohibited for all country actually. And 5.5 million children have been forced to flee their home. This is why we are doing this exhibit and involving to many different foundations and organizations to help Ukrainian children. Profits are going directly to Ukrainian orphanage. This is why mission that we try to complete is very important, not only for Ukrainians Museum, but also for our friends and in a different museum in United States. They try to join us with help, and we are very grateful for Puerto Rican Museum for Puerto Rican Center of Art and History, because the president came to the museum on the first day of war with $1,000 check to Ukrainian orphanage, just to keep this actually not like to keep this in the mind to everyone that we need the help, we need to protect the children. Yeah, and yeah, and next please, because it's 4 minutes left. I can put yeah. This is, you see, the Stop of the War. It's our exhibit, how it look like. And I mentioned before about those two display that I made, that one dedicated to the Ukrainian, 3 generations of Ukrainian women. They never be back in our future because they raped, they killed, and they died through the war that Russia brought to Ukraine. Yeah, this is
Maria, I just want to interject and, and commend you and the team there for, presenting exhibits of, the real time of what's happening for those of us to see this firsthand in this format. Can you tell me, I know the exhibit will be closing soon. Do you want
it's
to
going
share?
to be closing soon, but actually the next exhibit also will be dedicated to Ukrainian war, to war in Ukraine. And we
In
will
this
show
current one, the children of the war, this one closes on the
28, yeah,
28.
26, 28. But the next one during July, we invite everyone to visit because it's going to be history. And also photographer, one of the very known in Poland, Grzegorz Lityński, who is a photographer in Ukraine. He's a war and documentary photographer, and his images will be on a wall. Yeah, that's also from Ukraine. The next, please. And you see the Max Levin. Today, everywhere in the news, you will find his name. And yesterday, actually, was an investigation done, and they knew exactly in Ukraine how this guy died. Is a journalist, and he left for children. And we have also a special donation foundation founding for children, and he was killed in March by Russian, being a journalist. Next. And you see how many refugees you have. We try to show to the people this image, and just to apply to the world to help Ukraine. We need your help. We need your assistance, and because we have to win. We never give up, but we have to win.
And Maria, people can go to the Ukrainian National Museum of Chicago's website too for ways to support as well. I know there's listings there.
And this exhibit also was in collaboration with Ukrainian National Women League organization, and proceeds are going directly to Ukrainian orphanage. For in summer, those women are going to Ukraine to be with those children from Eastern Ukraine in our orphanage. This is why we try also to support them. Next slide, please. Yeah, and here you see now it's your turn. It's international meeting in a museum that we have by different visitors, and we call this as a cultural diplomacy. Without the support of the other country, and we cannot even survive, because we know the Russian army is the second army in the world. But despite the darkness, we are looking for glimmer of hope. And the Ukrainian military is now beating the second army of the world. And this is why many politicians, many congressmen, and mass media local mass media coming to the museum and making us as a center of information. And today also I found through our visitor some note that through that they can find about Ukraine. It's only in the Ukrainian National Museum, because unfortunately our media, our news, our local newspaper journalists forget about that. It's going on. Yeah.
No, so this and then one of the last slides, we continually support Ukraine. We help Ukraine in every possible way that we can. And one of the both slides here showcase that in return, we receive flags that are signed by military people in Ukraine, and they send these flags back to us. We have a uniform which was donated from one of our wounded soldiers who came to Chicago for some treatment. So our museum continually does everything that we can in support of Ukraine and in support of the United States as well, because we are Americans of Ukrainian heritage.
Well, in this brief conversation today, I mean, all of you in our conversation really shared, the role of the Ukrainian National Museum, not only in Chicago, but in the world too, in sharing that information, but also as an important cultural center for our city as well. And again, thank you for the work that you're doing. I encourage anyone who's listening today or in the future, will see this recording on our YouTube, but to support the Ukraine National Museum. I'm a proud member, I'm happy to say, and support the efforts as well of all that's happening there. So for more information on the website here, and as we've listed for additional contact information for Chicago Collections and the Ukraine National Museum of Chicago, please reach out. But we hope this will only be the start of many more conversations with you and sharing the incredible collection that you have there. So many thanks for taking the time for our conversation today.
Thank you.
We're happy to participate.
Wow, selfie.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Bye.